Welcome everyone into episode 4, already number 4 here of the Floppy Action. We're gonna call it a show. It's not really a podcast. It's just a strict show. Floppy Action here at KSR. We're breaking down Kentucky men's basketball, trying to figure out what's going right, what's going wrong. Unfortunately today, we're gonna be talking a lot about what's going wrong, and we're gonna be talking solely on the defensive end today, Brandon.
Yes.
Let me do introductions. We got Brandon Ramsey, of course, 6 years of coaching experience. Zack, KSR, covering men's basketball. Steven Peake, he's over here. There he is.
Inception.
Videographer. We've got a nice new setup here today too. We're going into the 21st century, getting rid of the clipboards and such. We're in person again today, but we're gonna go ahead and just jump right in.
Let's do it.
Yeah, let's do it. All right, we're gonna go to Texas A&M first, down there in College Station. Kentucky obviously lost by 5, 97-92 in overtime. Tough game, especially to give up 97 points to a team like Texas A&M that had scored a combined 109 points.
Something like that.
In their previous 2 games, and then come out and lay an absolute stinker last night against Arkansas and start, 1 for 15 from 3?
Yes.
Nearly come back and actually win that game against a bad Arkansas team. But nevertheless, A&M only decided to get hot against Kentucky. Or did they get hot against Kentucky, or was it just a bunch of bad defensive issues, mishaps, whatever you want to call it? We're going to break it down right now. We're going to start with our first play here towards the end of the first half. We've got 3 minutes left. Kentucky is on the verge of they're about to take the lead here in a couple minutes right before the half, and then Texas A&M grabs it again going into the locker room. But our first play here, we're just going to roll right through it, and then we'll kind of break it down from there. Brandon, you can go ahead and describe to me what you see as this kind of is happening here. We're starting down here in the bottom right.
Absolutely.
And I'll just kind of go through it.
All right, so here we have one of Texas A&M's kind of traditional ball screen continuity offense in the half court. You have their backup point guard, Manny Obaseki, in handling the ball. Kentucky does a pretty good job on this first side here. Hugo kind of walls off that initial ball screen, and the ball gets reversed around to the second side. This is where we start to see things break down for Kentucky. This ball screen that Wade Taylor is stepping up to set, that's kind of a newer concept for A&M. They kind of stole it from Houston in a game earlier this season. Jordan Sperber from Hoop Vision. If you enjoy my stuff, the film breakdowns and all that, you'll really enjoy what he does. He talked about this step-up ball screen where Wade Taylor kind of comes into it. He sort of ghosts this one where he doesn't really set it, he just kind of runs through it. But the breakdown here, and this is the frustrating part for Kentucky, DJ Wagner and Reed Sheppard need to communicate this switch. Like, this is a guard-on-guard action. Anytime there's guard-on-guard action, it should be an automatic switch, no ifs, ands, or buts. You really shouldn't even have to communicate it. You have number 0, Jace Carter, with the ball, who was a non-shooter. He's shooting 20.3% from three-point range coming into this game, excuse me. Like, DJ Wagner should be kind of sagged back, just waiting for Carter to dribble the ball to him, and then Sheppard can stay out here on Taylor.
Not hugging him?
Yeah. There's no reason to be hugging Wade Taylor in this instance. He should just be waiting for Carter to drive it downhill. And then the other issue, Zach and I talked about this off camera a little bit, like, Trey Mitchell's in a pretty good spot. There's no reason for him to be over here guarding Solomon Washington in the corner. He's over to the midline, which is really good, but then he doesn't do anything from there. Like, he literally watches Carter drive it all the way in and lay it up. So yes, like, this issue, like, the breakdown here is DJ Wagner and Reed Sheppard not switching that guard-on-guard step-up screen. But he doesn't, like, neither one of them get any help from their teammates at the rim, and that's frustrating when you have Hugo and Trey Mitchell in there at the same time. Like, you would like to think that we could get some rim protection there, and you have both big men, namely Trey Mitchell, just sort of watch this play happen as if they're just an observer to what's going on, and that's really frustrating when you have a perimeter breakdown and an at the rim breakdown from a team that the stats would tell you has pretty good rim protection, but that was not the case in College Station.
I think we kind of talked about this as well off camera, Brandon, but does Trey Mitchell's minutes load have anything to do with just a lack of attention here, or is he just kind of out of the play here? What do you think is kind of going through Trey Mitchell's mind in this moment?
Right. I mean, I think it's fair to say that when you're not supposed to play 44 minutes in a basketball game. I mean, there's only 40 minutes in regulation. Trey Mitchell wasn't playing 44 because of overtime. I mean, that's a really heavy workload, and that's where obviously Adu Theo is going to do some really good things for this team, and I think that defensively he brings some athleticism, some toughness. He would have gotten some rebounds in this game simply by being so athletic and so strong. He would have been able to elevate and get some rebounds here. But then also he just gives guys a break. Like, even if Adu doesn't bring a ton, Trey Mitchell plays better if Adu is in the game. And because he can play 36 minutes instead of 44. So yeah, I think this is still in the first half here, but still, yeah, I mean, you get some brain fatigue, you get some physical fatigue, like you need some breaks. It's hard to play 44 minutes, and I think that does contribute to some of the defensive breakdowns.
Aaron Bradshaw only playing 6 minutes in this game due to foul trouble, which is an entirely different topic that we won't touch on too much. Definitely didn't play a good role in this either, so. But we will go ahead and just move right along here into our next play. So we've got the Texas A&M ball player. He has it in the corner here. Trey Mitchell is in a wide, low, open stance. He's almost shading a little too much, it looks like. And, we just discussed this off camera here. You prefer to try and make a guy go baseline and make that act as the second defender. But when he's this wide open and leaving this much space open here, it really doesn't do much. It's almost just a clean lane, as Brandon was saying. And that's exactly what happens here. You've got a guy that Radford, in this situation, who ended up having what? 28 points against Kentucky. He was red hot. Even at this point, he had a lot. So you've got he's a guy that you got to key in on. Dillingham goes for kind of an effortless little block there. You don't really get much from Ugo here either, who slides over almost maybe a half second or a second too late. And you've got an easy reverse layup for Radford here. That brings the score back within 2. So Brandon, I'll let you go and try not to rage too hard on what your thoughts on this particular set are.
Yeah, so Zack is right. When you're guarding Tyrese Radford, and this was an issue for a lot of the game where we let their drive-first guys, Wade Taylor IV being a drive-first guy who ends up shooting it pretty well, but he's still a right-hand driver. And you have Tyrese Radford, who definitely is a drive-first guy, a left-hand driver. They got to their strong hand way too much. So if you're going to shade Radford either way, you want to force him right. That's actually an improvement from some of this game. And you would always rather force him to that baseline where you have a little bit of an extra defender. However, there's a difference between shading one direction and sort of like what I would call, this is just opening the gate. Like Trey Mitchell's first step, I mean, he's in a decent stance here, and then he just essentially opens up and lets Tyrese Radford drive it in a straight line right past his inside shoulder. Like, there is just no resistance. It takes Radford like one dribble to get his shoulders all the way past Trey Mitchell. And then you have things just happening a little too quickly, I think, for Ugonna Onyenso at this point, where he did some really good things defensively in this game. He was able to, he finished with 10 rebounds. He finished with 5 blocks, I think.
Career high.
In terms of counting stats, that's pretty good. But
film-wise,
there's still just some issues. Like, if you want to be an elite rim protector, I got to get something out of you here. Like, it's great that he's taken away Anderson Garcia, but like, I would much rather Anderson Garcia have to finish one at the rim over Ugonna Onyenso than Tyrese Radford get all the way to the rim.
We'll go into our next play here. Maybe it'll get better.
I wouldn't hold my breath.
Spoiler. It does not.
Yeah. So
what's he doing? I don't want to like just pick on Trey the whole time, but like, is there a reason why he would maybe be like? Do you want to try and defend this guy? Is he a shooter, Garcia?
No, he's a non-shooter. I disagree with how. I'll admit I disagree with how they're guarding this. It was very difficult to pinpoint what the game plan was on the ball screens, and that's a problem. Not that I need to know what it is, but I should be able to discern from the film what they had talked about, and I am still not fully sure what anybody was supposed to do. So it's like, it is hard to cast blame because, yes, but based on the overall game plan, I think they were weakening these ball screens, forcing them to their left, which would mean that Trey Mitchell was in the right spot, and Antonio should have forced him left instead of forcing him right. And then you end up in a situation where 2 guys are on the same side, and you get downhill and you get yet another Radford layup. Obviously, from Kentucky's standpoint, you want Ugonna Onyenso to protect the rim. Texas A&M does a pretty good job of kind of occupying that help defender by, as you can see, number 10 here's sort of sealed up on his backside, kind of pushing against him to try to let Radford get down the lane line and go lay it up. Well, obviously, Radford kind of takes it right at Ugo here. So again, it would be great if he could go up with 2 hands, be 7 feet tall, be an elite rim protector. Yes, it would be awesome if he was going to do that, but again, a kind of common theme here, the breakdown starts on the perimeter. It would be awesome if Ugo could make all the problems go away. He made some of them go away. He didn't make others go away. I'm not necessarily going to jump all over him for situations that he really shouldn't even have to be in if we did a better job guarding out on the perimeter.
And I think part of Ugo's, not necessarily his issue here, is it kind of goes back to just not playing a lot of basketball. Because I think right here, he still doesn't know if he wants to block this shot or not.
Right.
And the guy's at his face. He doesn't know if he wants to block it right here, go straight up, or maybe try and trail the guy, like if he's going to continue to go in for a layup. Instead, he just shoots a nice, or I think he gets kind of like an up and under move here.
Yeah, he kind of spins it
flips
up there.
it up there. But Ugo, the guy's at him, and he's still, his hands are down. He doesn't really know what he wants to do yet.
I mean, his hands are down, and like, look, he's almost leaning back into the player. Like moving on.
Do you think it'll get better in the next play, Brandon?
I'm going to venture a guess and say no, Zach.
All right, we're on number 4 now. We're going to Missouri game. Okay, Kentucky wins this one. But we're going to dive into this play here and just kind of see where things break down. All right, so Brandon here, we're going to go 4th play in a row here where the pick and roll, the guard, the perimeter play is kind of where things start to break down. So initially, actually, Rob Dillingham does a pretty decent job here of defending this pick and roll. You don't want to defend 7'9", the ostrich, as Brandon just called him.
Connor Vanover.
Connor Vanover. He is 7'5". But the ball whips out here, and then you've got Reed Sheppard crashing way too hard. I'm going to let Brandon dive into all this more. We're just kind of relaying it right now for y'all. And then you've got another situation where Rob crashes too hard on a guy. But then here's where it all falls apart. Just kind of watch Rob here for a couple clicks. Still standing. Ball gets past to Missouri. Missouri actually does a great job of just working the ball around here. I thought they did a great job of just pure ball movement. And then Ugo is the only actual guy here who we just kind of have crapped on a little bit. He's the only guy here being active, and he actually ends up blocking this shot. But then you've got Trey Mitchell, who is standing right here at the free throw line the entire time. Does not try and go in. You've got Reed Sheppard down here trying to battle against a 7'5" guy for a rebound. Obviously, Vanover's going to win that.
Initial ball screen coverage on this one, pretty good. Ugonna Onyenso does a good job of sort of corralling Sean East off of the ball screen. Rob stays on his hip, and you're forcing a left-handed driver to drive it right. Not a whole lot of bad things will happen. Even if he scores this with like a little right-handed floater, we'll live to fight another day, no big deal. The breakdown starts, I think maybe one more clip. Let's pass it to Connor Vanover in the corner. He is, I believe Steven has continued to mention him as a 12.5% three-point shooter. That is low. It's also very low volume. I think he's literally made maybe 2 or 3 threes this year. So that is a guy, I know the stigma. Everybody goes off and rub, blah, blah, blah. Some of that's true, some of that's not. Different topic, different day. Reed Sheppard, I love you, buddy. What are we doing here? Like, there are so many more things on the court at any given time that we need to be worried about than Connor Vanover shooting a 3. It is just not gonna be a problem if he shoots this. Even if he makes one, I would say, go shoot the next one, buddy. Good luck. And so he just takes himself out of the play to run at a complete non-shooter. So that gets the ball moved to number 13 here. Rob Dillingham, in a similar fashion, runs at him for no real good reason. And then the number one issue that Rob Dillingham faces for all of the great things that he brings, like we're not sitting here telling you that Rob and Reed shouldn't play. We're not sitting here and telling you that they're hurting the cause. They are helping the cause, I promise you. But these are the things that can get fixed on film, because now, as Zach has already done once, let's do it again. Like, if you could like black out the rest of the screen, you would think we're not pressing any buttons here for the next like 5 seconds, because Rob Dillingham is standing up and watching a play from the perimeter essentially. And then Coach Cowdis recently in a press conference going into this Mississippi State game that's going to be played tonight here in real time is talking about the guards helping with the rebounding effort more. This is what he's talking about. Like, we're not talking about guys needing to go get 5, 6, 7 rebounds a game. We're talking about showing some effort where you don't have Antonio Reeves standing and watching, Rob Dillingham standing and watching. Not a guard, but Trey Mitchell standing and watching. Like, Ugonna Onyenso makes a great play here. We just showed 3 clips where he didn't make such great plays. Now we get a great play from him, and then his teammates let him down by not coming in there and crashing the glass. Now, maybe, I mean, the dude's 7'5". Maybe he would still get the rebound. It happens. Again, you live to fight another day. But it's just really frustrating when you watch a clip like this and you just see so much. I just said it to Zach. There's a big issue with running at the ball, and there's a big issue of standing around off of the ball. And those are combining to cause Kentucky some real issues because they get themselves out of position by running at the ball too much. And then once it gets moved, they stand and watch because I think
that's what they did all the last 4 years.
Right. And I think that some of it is like they realize they've screwed up. So they're kind of like, oh crap, I just screwed up. But like right now their reaction is to kind of think about it as opposed to go do something about it.
Reed Sheppard was the second tallest player on that North Laurel team. He played right here in the middle of a 2-3 zone, and he was the free safety, essentially, for a defense for 2 seasons. That's all he did. His entire job was to ball hawk and run out at shooters. I think that some of what we're seeing right now is just freshmen being inattentive.
Poor habits.
Poor habits, not knowing who to guard, not being able to download the scouting report as things are happening. Yeah. And I think that's, I mean, if me and Brandon were thrown out there, I'm sure we would probably do the same thing. All right, one more. You think you can make it through, Steven?
Let's try.
All right.
Let's try.
Let's see what we got rolling here. Oh, look at that, another pick and roll. You should have seen his grin. That was
what's frustrating sometimes is that it seems like Kentucky just can't get out of their own way when some of the things that we just were asking them to do, now they do them, but it's kind of at the wrong time. Like, I like Reed Sheppard going in there and bothering the ball on a Shawnee's drive, but he's driving it right. I'm not that concerned about Shawnee scoring it when he's driving it right. And I know that seems like an oversimplification, but again, it's about making decisions defensively. So like now you cut him off when he was driving right to force him back left. I'm not saying I don't want Reed Sheppard to go help some here. What I would like to see, and this is part of what's tough and people can say like, well, that's unfair. But what I would tell Reed here is if you're gonna go help, you better steal it. And I know that seems unfair, but it's just true because if you don't steal it, then I kind of would have rathered you just stayed home and let Rob Dillingham guard his man as he's doing here. He has him going to his right, kind of angled off away from the basket.
Well, and Bradshaw initially too is in good position.
He probably going to block the shot going right.
Whereas when he goes around here, then he gets in the Ugo situation from the other play where he's kind of stuck on this guy, and actually Aaron is actually hooking his guy here. And that slows him down just enough to allow him to get this shot off. He's got a little bit more space too, because on this initial one, if he's going up for this layup here, he's got Rob beat, but Aaron is in a much better spot, I think, to go up and try and pin that one. As opposed to what actually happens where Aaron's getting tangled and then he's a half step or half second too slow.
And then as we mentioned, as we were first rolling through the play too, I mean,
Rob just stops.
You have just that split second, and again, it looks worse on the freeze frames than it would look in live action. But you have, when Shawnee gets Rob Dillingham on his hip, Rob just sort of lets up instead of taking like that half step like harder to try to get back around him. Rob has a tendency to sort of, I don't mean it to sound as harsh as it seems, but Rob gives up on too many plays where he gets out of position, so then he stops as opposed to trying to fix it. And obviously some of that can be fixing it on the front end so you don't have the problem. And that's why we're talking about these things. It's why I'm sure Kentucky is spending time talking about the same things we are.
Well, they're waiting for this to drop.
And they're waiting for Floppy Action to drop in a couple days.
So, okay, all right. So I'm gonna be the fan here. And I'm not one of those like Cal needs to go zone people. My question is, can they switch up the defenses? Like, just switching things up, is there anything that can be beneficial from that?
My thing with the zone would be kind of some of the stuff we were talking about with guys like Reed and Rob, where they stand around. And DJ and Antonio do that too, and I think, it's probably good if they're standing in their zone, but I feel like that's gonna open things up for more back cuts, just more movement around them that they're not going to pay attention to. I think it's probably better for them to be locked in and focused on a man as opposed to maybe having to guard a general area where they're not going to be as attentive.
And my argument is that why can't you just go throw a zone out just for a couple plays? You give up a bucket or two. I mean, I'm watching back doors all the time, watching guys get beat off the dribble. I get it. I don't even want them to go zone for too long. Right. But I wouldn't mind it just to throw something new. Make them think make them think about it. What are we going to do on this offensive possession? They're just coming down the court knowing we're in man-to-man. It was like, I would love to pull up one of the plays we had from last year with Kansas State. It was like, oh, hey, why don't we just run the same play over and over? Because Kentucky's not doing anything to adjust to this. And that's what's frustrating. It's like, look, Calipari, if they saw this, they're probably going to laugh at me because, like, I don't know what I'm talking about. But I am like, all right, but is there a way to strategize out of bad defensive players? Like, is there a coaching strategy that can prevent bad defensive players from giving up 90 points to a team that, averaged 54 coming in?
Right. And I think that the best way to answer that question is, obviously there's always things in hindsight that you wish you would have done differently. And I think that as a coach, you have to decide, do I want to try to get better at the thing that we struggle at, which is obviously man-to-man defense, or do I want to try to just kind of junk it up? In some respects, what Missouri does. Like, Missouri's not very good defensively, but every game you're going to face 3, 4, 5 different defensive looks, and that's going to give them a chance to beat some people this year because you're going to face a 1-3-1. You're going to face some full court pressure. They're going to trap you some. They're going to play man-to-man. They're going to do all these different things, and they're just going to kind of keep throwing some different stuff at you and see what sticks. I think that it's fair to ask at this point, when Kentucky is clearly not very good defensively, I think it's fair to say, why don't we mix in a possession of 2-3 zone? Because you even see it with Kentucky's offense this year, as good as they are. When a defense switches up on us, it usually takes a possession to kind of get it, because like you come down, you're dribbling down, and you're like, 2-3 zone. You look over the bench, Cal, like, what do we do? Now there's 15 seconds on the shot clock. That first possession kind of gets wasted sometimes. Yeah. So in games like Texas A&M, I know we're on the Missouri game here, but like in games like Texas A&M, guess what? One possession gets you a win compared to a loss.
But I know that they can get better, and I know that these players, the freshmen, are all talented enough.
Yeah.
It's just going to be a matter of drilling it home, and I do believe eventually there will be a point where it clicks. It's just, when is that point going to be? And are they going to continue to let 95 points go up before it clicks, I guess is kind of.
So the last thing I'll say, and I'll get out of here and let you guys close out, was I went back and looked at every single three-point shot that Texas A&M took, and we'll put up every one that they made here. There is a part of me that wants to say that how much of this is bad luck? Like, how much is Trevarian White? I mean, he's a great shooter for UNCW, but people just having career days in Kentucky's 3 losses. Even St. Joseph's, in the game that went to overtime, shot, 37-something%? Yeah, they hit like 12 or 13, maybe more than that. And I'm looking at, there are some of these that you're seeing right now that the guys are wide open. Some of those are off rebounds and the kickouts, so that's why they're wide open. And most of them, there's a guy right in their face. It seems stupid to say it's bad luck because, Texas A&M averaged 54 points a game in the SEC coming in. Can you chalk any of this up to just Texas A&M was on fire, UNCW was on fire, Kansas, DeJuan Harris was on fire?
Well, we even talked about this at the beginning, is Texas A&M started, in the first half, they were 6 for 18. That's 33% from 3, which is still better than their average. But 33%
doesn't get you beat.
Any team, if opposing teams shoot 33% from 3 the rest of the way against Kentucky, they're going to win most of their games. All right, well, I hope you have hate watched this episode and that you loved it. We tried, I know we were a little bit negative today, but the defense has been a main talking point, and it's the reason that Kentucky has not necessarily a bad loss, but a loss at Texas A&M. So we figured we'd go into it a little bit more than usual. We'll be back probably in a couple weeks or something like that. We'll see. We'll try and be more positive. If Kentucky allows it, we'll go back into some offense and stuff. But we hope you all enjoyed dissecting Kentucky's defense. I know I sure did. Probably not as fun as these two. It's more fun for me just watching them go off and me trying to narrate it all. So thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, comment. We're always looking for suggestions. Brandon, do you have anything else before you wanna go out of here?
I don't think so. Just thanks for watching. I think everything's going to be okay for Kentucky. I know, as Zach said, this was getting into the weeds about the defensive issues, and we all know they're there. But let's not forget, Kentucky's 12-3. They have a chance to rattle off some wins here the rest of January. Things are in a really good place, but that doesn't mean that you can't address some of the issues, and that's what we try to do here today.
Still top 20 in most of the advanced stats.
Absolutely.
I'd say Kentucky's still
and number 8 in the country in the AP poll, for whatever that matters. So.
Yeah.
Yep.
So we're signing off. Floppy Action.